الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح هيا على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله الذي أعظم على عباد المنة بما دفع عنهم كيد الشيطان وفنه ورد أمله وخيب ظنه إذ جعل الصوم حصنا لأوليائه وجنة وفتح لهم به أبواب الجنة وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله قائد الخلق وممهد السنة صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ذوي الأبصار الثاقبة والعقول المرجحنة وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في حديث كم من صائم ليس له من صيامه إلا الجوع أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Respected brothers, sisters, elders, youngsters, we fast throughout the day for 14-15 hours, and we're sitting down at the time of iftar close to sunset. If at that time someone tells us that why don't you start eating, 2-3 minutes left, and someone were to tell us that why don't you eat, what is 2-3 minutes? It's not going to make much of a difference. So at that time, our Iman and our Taqwa will materialize. Our Iman and our Taqwa will materialize. Even someone whose Iman is weak, that person's Iman will materialize. And that individual will say, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to break my fast 2-3 minutes prior to sunset. Why? When you ask that person, why won't you break it? And the response would be that this is the order of Allah. It is the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I break my fast 2-3 minutes before, then I am disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I cannot disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I cannot break my fast 2-3 minutes before and be subjected to the chastisement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at that time, if someone were to ask us, if someone were to tell us that break your fast, our iman becomes very strong at that moment. Our iman becomes strong. Our taqwa and relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes strong. So, in a similar vein, it's the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to offer 5 times salat. When shaitan tells us not to, or when our nafs tells us, well, don't wake up for Fajr, then why don't we tell shaitan at that time that no, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm going to offer my 5 times salat. I'm going to offer my 5 times salat. Why is it that we don't get up for Fajr and we don't suppress our nafs? We don't suppress our baser instincts, our baser desire. Is it not the hukum of Allah? Is it not the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When it's time to give zakat, when it's time to perform our hajj, what happens to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time? What happens to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to treating our parents right, treating our parents correctly and with kindness? So is it not the hukum and injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that treat your parents with kindness? I mean, we have to say no to shaitan, we have to say no to our nafs. We have to be, is it not the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be faithful to our spouses? This too is the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Treating others with compassion, this too is the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being honest in our business dealings, this too is the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being just and being equitable, this too is the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these are the injunction and instructions and commands of Allah azza wa jal. Not just the fast, not just that, you know what, I'm going to, when somebody tells us, oh, you can break your fast 2-3 minutes before. So at that time, we're going to call upon the, well, no, this is not the injunction of Allah. This is not the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the same vein, all of these injunctions, all of these commands, all of these ahkam, they have a similar status. They have a similar status. Is it not the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to distance ourselves from sin? To distance ourselves from anything which would draw the ire and displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Stealing, gambling, watching haram, riba, these are all prohibited. These are all prohibited. Just as it is prohibited to eat 2-3 minutes before sunset. Just as it is prohibited to eat 2-3 minutes before sunset, these two are prohibitions. Stealing, gambling, watching haram, riba, not offering our 5 times salat, not giving zakat properly, not performing the hajj or delaying the hajj unnecessarily, not treating the parents with kindness, not showing and displaying loyalty to our spouses, not treating others with compassion, with honesty, not being ethical in our business relationships, not being just. These are all considered as sins. These are all sins. We can't be selective in what we want to follow. We can't be selective in what injunctions we want to follow, what commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we want to follow. We show strength at iftar. The food is in front of us. The food is in front of us. It's there. But we'll wait until we are certain that the sun has set. And then we will break our fast. So this kind of God consciousness we should show in all of our religious affairs. This type of taqwa, this type of relationship should be shown in all of our religious affairs. The story of Umar bin Abdul Aziz's grandmother, this is a very well-known story. She said, upon her mother's recommendation, that, why don't you add water to your milk? Why don't you add water to your milk? Who's going to know? Amir al-Mu'mineen is far away. Umar radiallahu anh is far away. He's not going to look at you. He's not going to look at you. He's not going to reprimand you. He's not going to punish you. So she said, when her mother made that recommendation, she said that I can't obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in public I can't obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in public and disobey Allah in private. I cannot obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in public and disobey Allah in private. This is a very important thing. That we have to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every instance, 24/7. It isn't part-time. We cannot be part-time Muslims that, you know what, I'm going to be extra Muslim in the month of Ramadan. I'm going to be extra worshipful in the month of Ramadan. I'm going to make sure that I offer my 5 times salah only in the month of Ramadan. But once I'm out, that's it. Then it's back to listening to the machinations and whisperings of the devil, shaitan, and listening to my base desires, listening to my nafs. Ibn Umar, radiallahu anhu, he came across a shepherd. And the shepherd, he was fasting. The shepherd is grazing his sheep. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu wants to test him. He asks him that, why don't you sell me one of your sheep? And he said, they don't belong to me. They belong to my master. How is your master going to know? You sell me your sheep, your master is not going to know anything. Sell me one sheep. So, and your master, you can give the money to him, or you can keep the money for yourself. He goes, yes, if I do this, yeah, sure, the master is not going to know. And I'll be in the clear. But what about my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What about that? What about my taqwa and my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's going to suffer. That's going to take a hit. So فَوَلَّ الرَّاعِي عَنْهُ وَهُوَ رَافٍ إِسْبَهُ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَأَيْنَ اللَّهِ. So this shepherd, he turns away from Ibn Umar, and he has his finger pointed at the sky. And he's saying, فَأَيْنَ اللَّهِ. Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I can listen to you right now, but in the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to hold me accountable. All the injunctions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are equal. This is the point I want to make. That all the injunctions, all the instructions, all the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are equal. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to do something, we have to do it. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited something, then we don't do it. We cannot disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot be selective. One injunction doesn't take priority over another. So the injunction of don't eat before sunset, that doesn't take priority over other injunctions. That doesn't take priority over other injunctions. Those injunctions and those commands have equal value in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. What does the month of Ramadan teach us? The month of Ramadan, it teaches us to be mindful of Allah's commands. In every single command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the month of Ramadan teaches us. Look at it, think about it throughout the entire day. We are getting up at the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have our suhoor. And then we continue to fast. We stay away from all pleasures, food, drink, pleasures, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We break our fast at the instruction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Throughout the entire day, we are following each and every single command diligently. Why can't we do that outside of the month of Ramadan? The month of Ramadan is a training ground for each and every single one of us, so that we can better worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the entire year. Not just month of Ramadan. It isn't exclusive just to the month of Ramadan. The real objective of fasting is what? The real objective of fasting is to inculcate the spirit of abstinence from sin. Anything that it constitutes sin, anything that is remotely a sin, we stay away from. We stay away from. And cultivation of virtue throughout fasting. It's to build our a'mal, it's to build our good deeds, so that they benefit us in the hereafter. This is what the month of Ramadan is all about. And we all make mistakes. We all commit sin. This is part of being insan, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us a choice. That you can either do good, or you can either perform misdeeds. So we're all going to sin, but at the same time, what we need to understand is that continue to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, strive to become better. This is what makes us human, and this is where the reward is. A famous 19th century Irish poet said that every saint has a past. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. So if we have made mistakes in the past, don't look at them. Don't look at them. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness and move forward. We don't need to dwell on what mistakes we have made in the past. Many people, they were once involved in wayward behaviors. They were involved in wayward behaviors. They became models of moral change and personal conduct. I mean, look at in the American experience, you have Malcolm X. He was involved in many wayward behaviors, and yet look at what he did. Look at who he became. He became a model of moral courage and personal conduct. Amazing conduct. This is in the American experience. If you look at from the classical scholars, you have Bishr ibn al-Harith, who was known as Bishr al-Hafi. He never wore shoes. He never wore any kind of footgear. So he's raised as a Muslim, but he got into the party life. He got into the party life. This is the teacher of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal would sit with him. So he got into the life of drinking and this party life. So one day he's hosting a raucous party, and Imam Musa Kadhim, one of the ancestors of Ali radiallahu anhu, he passed by, and there's a female attendant. She comes out with garbage. She comes out with garbage from the party. So Musa Kadhim, he asks the attendant that, is this the house of a free man or a slave, a servant? Is this the house of a free man or a servant? She said that this is a house of a free person, a free man. He's not a servant. He is not abd. So Musa, and she responded literally. She responded literally. The question of Musa Kadhim, this was more metaphorical. That is this person someone who is conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is this person sleeping? He's completely ghafil. He doesn't care about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. So Musa said that, okay, yeah, you're right. You said that he's a free person, you're right. Because if he was a slave, if he was truly a slave, if he was truly a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he would fear Allah. He would be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would not be involved in these types of vices. So she goes inside, she tells Bishop that how he can't be a slave because you're not obedient to Allah. You're not a slave because you're disobedient. You are disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have no taqwa. So this just hit home. For him it hit home. He's stunned. He has this sudden revelation. He's completely stunned. He rushed out to meet Musa Kadhim, and he affirmed his relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal as a slave. That from henceforth I will live as a servant. I will live as a servant. And he repented for his sins. And he was known as Bishr al-Hafi. Why was he known as Bishr al-Hafi? Someone who never wore footgear. He never wore shoes because the state where he reaffirmed his faith, was without shoes. He rushed out to Musa Kadhim without wearing any kind of footgear, out of eagerness that I want to change my life. But this is the month Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid down perfect grounds for us to develop our relationship for the entire year with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this Bishr al-Hafi became a transmitter of prophetic traditions. So he had a past. Bishr al-Hafi had a past, but look at how his future became. Look at who he became. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, he would sit with him as a student of Islamic spirituality. This was Bishr al-Hafi. So every sinner has a past. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. Ramadan, this is a chance for you and me to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the sinner to become a saint. For each and every single one of us, we have a chance to become a saint. We have a chance to become a friend of Allah, a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We shouldn't be spending Ramadan deciding that, this is how much I'm going to eat. As a matter of fact, but how much can we eat at that time? Yeah, sure, we're not eating for 14, 15 hours, but come iftar time, how much can we possibly eat? How much can we possibly eat? I mean, this just goes to show how temporary this world is. It's a temporary place. And we have to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tomorrow. Ramadan is not for burning calories and losing weight. Ramadan, it means to burn away sin, to wash away sin. This is the triliteral of Ramadan is Ra Mim Bad. It means to burn away sin. This is what Ramadan is all about. This is a month of sacrifice and struggle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to eat and drink for the entire year. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is allowing us to eat and drink. Can we not give 1 month for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can we not give 1 month to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants our time, wants our health, wealth, our entire being in the month of Ramadan. So we can definitely give, we can make sacrifices, and we can give concessions in the month of Ramadan for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why the reward is so great in Ramadan. Al-ajru bi qadri al-mashaqqa. That the ajr and reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is in direct proportion to the sacrifices that we make. Why is it that our nawafil are equal to fard? Why is it that our fard are multiplied 70 times? Why is it that our a'mal dramatically increase? The rewards of our a'mal, the rewards of our good deeds, they dramatically increase in the month of Ramadan. Because there is mashaqqa behind it. There is difficulty behind it. There is struggle and sacrifice behind it. This is why. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid down the perfect grounds for us to develop our relationship with Him. In the month of Ramadan, be in good company. Be in good company. Be in company that will develop our relationship, our spirituality with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kunu ma'as sadiqeen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. That kunu ma'as sadiqeen. Be with the truthful people. Be with the honest people. Be with the ethical people. Be with people that will develop you in a good manner. Not people that are going to mess you up in this world and the hereafter. Adopt the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the quickest route towards the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. That say that if you love Allah, then follow my way, follow my sunnah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this in the Quran. The quickest route to the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to adhere to the sunnah, to love the sunnah, to follow the sunnah, to adopt the sunnah. We learn a few terminologies. Oh, it's farz, it's wajib, it's sunnah, it's mustahab. Then what do we say? Oh, it's only sunnah. I don't really need to do it. I don't need to really do this because it's mustahab. I don't need to do these things because they're not really fard, they're not really wajib, or they're not ma'lum min ad-din darura. They're not necessarily known so far as deen is concerned. So we leave it out by just saying, oh, it's only sunnah. I don't need to follow it. Well then, are we going to be deserving of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love? Find a routine in Ramadan that works and stick to that routine regularly throughout the entire year. This is something that can be accomplished. This is something that we can do. If we can do it in Ramadan, then we can definitely do it outside of Ramadan as well. Whoever lives their life as they do Ramadan, then death will come to that person just as the moon of Eid comes to a fasting person. Imagine the joy, the elation. Imagine the joy and the elation that we have passed when the angel of death comes to us and we have lived a life of virtue and commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine the joy of that person that I'm finally going to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm finally going to see my Creator, and in a state that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with me, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not displeased with me. Imagine that person's state. Stay away from distractions. Stay away from distractions to take full advantage of this blessed month. There's a lot of distractions out there, but we can stay away from these distractions. Don't count the days of Ramadan. Make the days of Ramadan count. Don't count the days of Ramadan, rather make the days of Ramadan count. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونشكره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه والاه. أما بعد، عباد الله، فإني أوصيكم ونفسي بالتقوى العلي العظيم القائل في محكم كتابه: يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون واعلموا أن الله أمركم بأمر عظيم أمركم بالصلاة والسلام على نبي الكريم فقال إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد يقول الله تعالى يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم إن زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم يوم ترونها تذهل كل مرضعة عما أرضعت وتدعو كل ذات حمل حملها وترى الناس سكارى وما هم بسكارى ولكن عذاب الله شديد اللهم إنا دعوناك فاستجب لنا دعانا فاغفر اللهم لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اجعلنا هداة المهتدين غير ضالين ولا مضلين اللهم استر عوراتنا وآمن روعاتنا واكفنا ما همنا وقنا شر ما نتخوف اللهم اجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعد تفرق معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا معنا شقيا ولا محروما اللهم تقبل منا صلاتنا وصيامنا وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا وتقبل منا صالح أعمالنا واجعلنا من المقبولين في الدنيا والآخرة ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما اللهم اجعل أولادنا أبرارا أتقياء وانبتهم في الإسلام نباتا حسنا اللهم اصلح ديننا كله اللهم اصلح شأننا كله اللهم اجعل آخر كلامنا من الدنيا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروا يزدكم واستغفروا يغفر لكم واتقوا يجعل لكم من أمركم مخرجا. A few announcements. Everyone is requested to make dua for baby girl Imani, the granddaughter of Khalid Mehtaddin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant her Shifa Kamila Ajala Mustamid. All those who are sick, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant each and every one of them Shifa Kamila Mustamid and remove all traces of sickness from within them. Those who have passed, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive their shortcomings. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala illuminate their graves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise their rank in the hereafter. Everyone is also requested to make dua for Masjid Aqsa and the people of Palestine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the people who commit different types and perpetrate evil over there.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع ماله وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم.